probably.
Welcome to Off the Air on the Record. I am Danny Gurry here with Marco. Good evening, Marco. How are you?
I am good. How you doing, Danny?
I'm good. For those that don't know, we are siblings. Guess who's older?
Probably that gray right there. You could probably.
I cover mine. I cover mine. Thank goodness. Very excited tonight because we are putting Marco in the hot seat, and can't wait for this to happen.
Yeah, I'm not used to being the one. I'm used to being the one interviewing, not being the interviewee. But been in radio for a long time, and we thought it would be good to get some other perspective. So this should be fun. I'm excited.
I think it will be fun. So sit back. Grab a cocktail because we're getting ready to take Marco off the air and we're putting him on the record. All right. So a little turn of events tonight with Marco and myself. I'm Danny. I'm on Mornings Key 103. Gotta say, for me, the on-air gig is very new, only 3 years being part of a morning show. But you, sir, have been on the air for quite a while. How long in total?
Man, I knew you were going to ask me. 30-ish years, maybe? What is it, 80?
Unbelievable, actually.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, a little over 30, probably. I got a chance to start when I was younger. Started actually when I was in 10th grade. So I got a little jump on people. So, but put a lot of time. Knew I wanted to do radio from when I was a kid, and just got looked into it. Yeah.
So kind of let's go back to that beginning because I think that is, a really pinnacle part of getting into radio when we did. So I got a job at Z104 in Frederick. And, in those days, by just hanging around, you invariably would be put to work. And that's what happened to you, right?
Yeah. So obviously we're brother and sister. So you got a job at Z104, WZYQ, Frederick, Maryland. And I was fascinated with radio, growing up in that. I was in the 80s, late 80s there. And just really enjoyed kind of the whole radio was bigger than life back then. And so when you got a job there, it's like, oh my God, you work at a radio station. It was, of course, the radio station I listened to growing up, Z104, Frederick, Maryland. It was the biggest thing since sliced bread. And I would go as many days after school as I could go and bug you. Was hanging around. And it's so funny because I actually started to go into the control room, into the prod rooms, and I was messing around, recording my voice, making fake demos and doing whatever. And some of the jocks saw me in there like, oh, hey, you want to learn some stuff? And so now that I'm in radio, I learned what I was doing. I was doing all of the jocks' production, all the dubs, all of the simple tags, all the stuff they didn't want to do that, as a DJ, you're like, oh, man, I got production. They all started to offload it. Now, of course, I loved it. It was great. And the boss one time came in. He's like, dude, are you doing everybody's work? I'm like, oh, I'm just messing around. But, I had a great fun. It taught me the board. It taught me, how to talk at a mic and to do all that. And then in 10th grade, it was night. I was there on a Friday night, and a dude didn't show up. Hollywood Sean Phillips, I think that's who was the night guy. And Cat Michaels was there. He's like, hey, man, you've been in here the whole time. You know how to do things. Do you want to go on? I need somebody. And I was like, what? Yes. So I got on, and of course I was on the air for like 7 minutes before I was dialing on my friends. Bro, I'm on the radio. I'm the one talking. Listen right now. So it was awesome, and my friends thought it was awesome, and 10th grade was a special year, and then I just worked on the weekends, really. And then when I graduated high school, man, I graduated. I knew right away what I wanted to do. I got my diploma. It was like at 6 o'clock service, like 6 p.m. I didn't even go to any parties. I went home, had a couple, party basic with with you and the parents and everybody. And then I actually went to work at 98 YCR doing overnights, midnight to 6, which was my first real kind of job. Right after I graduated, the day I graduated, I was on the air that night at midnight and never looked back. So,
yeah. And look, I mean, I think, it's you've had an amazing career, but the downside of radio, there are a couple, if there are any. And one is the fact that, you have to go where the work is. And, you've lived in, tons of different cities. I don't even know how many different cities you've lived in. Do you even know?
Yeah, it's a fun game. So I tell everybody this. So when you look at my resume, there's 2 ways to do radio. Like I currently work in Toledo, Ohio, with a very sweet lady. And her name is Lynn. She's just fantastic. She's been in Toledo for 20 plus years. And so there's 2 ways to do radio. One way is to go to market, you marry it, you work your way up from doing whatever all the way into wherever you go, and you stay in one town and you just love life. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the other one is you just move and get, I always try to get better jobs, always try to get more pay. I tried to get different shifts, and I wanted to see the world a little bit. So I was able to that was a great picture there. Have a lot of fun.
That was a good picture.
And so I love doing this. So we'll start Z104 Frederick, Maryland, B104 Baltimore. From B104 I went to Power 105 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was my first real job. 98 YCR was in there, but it was just kind of part-time, full-time there. So came back from Albuquerque to work a little bit part-time in Pennsylvania, and then I got my first big break really when I moved out to California where you were. And we lived together in San Diego for a little while, and I had a little hiatus for just for a year or two. I played pro roller hockey, remember that?
Yeah.
And then I just kind of messed around, and then I went to Tucson, Arizona. Once I moved from there, and that was that was a great station. Gosh, I can't remember that. That was KRQ in Tucson, where I actually worked. The staff we had at KRQ in Tucson is crazy. Chris Mann, Mojo, we had Adam Smasher. It was a who's who of radio. And then from there, I was actually hanging out with one of my very best DJ friends, downtown Billy Brown in Atlanta, Georgia. I was just visiting one time, and Lacey Neff called from West Virginia and said, hey, I need a night jock. So then I went to WVAQ in West Virginia, and then I went to Z104 in D.C., went from D.C. to Nashville to work at 107.5 The River. And then from there, afternoons, I went to Z100 in Portland, Oregon, and stayed there for a little while. Then back to Nashville because I loved it so much to work at 102.5 The Party with my very favorite morning co-host, a guy, actually his name is Marco, and we had so much fun there. And then we went to Indianapolis, and then I went to West Palm Beach and hung out there for a little while. And then from West Palm, went to Milwaukee right there, 94.5 KTI Milwaukee with Matthew Blades. Stayed there for quite some time, and then went to La Crosse, Wisconsin from there. After I got a little divorce in there. That's when I got my divorce. And then I went to La Crosse, Wisconsin, to Z93, which is a great radio station. From there, I hit Seattle at Click 98.9. Then I went back to Madison, Wisconsin, and worked at 93.3 The Party. Oh, yeah, right there. And 93.1 Jams. And from there, I went to This is getting long here, but to 97.5 WKMZ. They turned the radio station there for me and had some fun there. And then I went back to Milwaukee after that thing blew up to KLH, which is a rock station. And then from there, I went to the place where I'm at now, K100 in Toledo, Ohio. So just a few stops.
So when's my birthday?
September 6th.
Oh, good. I was just going to say, you can remember all of that.
Got you.
You did.
Got you. Don't ask me any of my other siblings' birthdays. I have no idea. That is the honest truth. But I do know my kids.
I should have asked you that.
Yeah, they'll get mad.
But look, I mean, I think, we talked to Lou Katz before, and he's been so lucky to be able to even move stations but stay in the same market. And like you say, we have a lot of radio friends who have stayed in one place, one station even, for their whole careers. So there are a bunch of ways to do it, and I think, you've taken, you've always taken not the easiest path, but I think kind of the most storied, which is interesting. So, speaking of moving all of those locations, it also comes at a cost of your namesake. So,
It
you
does.
have been many different names
I
over the
have.
course of a career, and how what is that like? Like I've only because I come from behind the scenes, and I've started in sales, then really fell into promotions, did a lot of copywriting, recording as well because we were at a small station. Left radio after a couple different places and came back, but being on the mic is, for you, part of a kind of a persona, and you've had lots of different names. What is that like
I
to,
have.
to have that?
It's really weird and it's kind of funny and it depends on where. Now I have friends all over the country because in radio you just have a ton of friends that is kind of a small incestuous deal radio, but you still it's still big enough to where you. So I have to know wherever I know somebody from is where they know me that. So
Right.
if I'm in a certain area, I people only know me by name, but if I'm in another area, they have no idea who that person is and they know me by another one. So Randy G was my first name at Z104 in Frederick, Maryland. Then I got to 98 YCR, and Willie B, my program director, thought it'd be great to call me Hollywood Haze. That was the days of the early 90s when everybody was
Yeah.
having fun. So it was Hollywood. There stayed Hollywood Haze for quite some time. Then my name
So
switched.
long that you actually got it tattooed.
I did,
on you.
but that I had that one covered though, because
I know.
yeah, but I did have that one tattooed. I thought I was going to be Hollywood Haze. How naive was that? Forever. And although I like that name, then I went to Nashville and became Billy Breeze, which was our program director there, and stayed Billy for a while. And then when I got, I changed my name, so Billy for a while. And then when I got to actually Milwaukee, there was already a Billy. So this is how it happened. So when you're moving around, there'd already been no, they didn't like Billy because that was like a southern. I was Billy in Nashville, really. And so when I got to Milwaukee, they're like, "Why don't you we like people with initials? We're gonna think of some initials." And of course, at that time, I had two kids, Addie and JC. So I went with AJ. So I was AJ Randall for quite some time. When I got to lacrosse, there was just an AJ that was the morning guy that had left. They'd fired him. So I came in there, like, well, you can't be AJ. We just fired an AJ. What were some of your other names? And I'm like, well, I was on a station called, with Billy and Marco. And they're like, oh, Marco. And I'm like, well, no, my name was Billy on that show. And they're like, no, but you look like a Marco. You're Italian. Let's just go with Marco. And I'm like, So it was funny. It's funny because people think that, I have a very good friend of mine who I actually do a podcast with here on YouTube. And we used to be Billy and Marco, and now I'm Marco, and now it's not Marco and Marco. When I do that thing, it's Billy and Marco. So even though I'm Marco now, I'm Billy on another channel right here on YouTube. So it gets confusing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, how do you even know what to answer to? That's the crazy thing to me.
yeah, it is. It's funny. It is quite. Let's put it this way: if you yell just a random guy's name in a mall, I'm liable to look around and be like, I could have been named that. I could. Yeah. So yeah.
We got our super producer Ash with some goodies. Ash, throw it at us now.
Music video, what's going on?
I work at a furniture store on Alton Road.
All right, not as glamorous, but we all need an ottoman, right?
We have those.
I'll make you a deal. I need furniture. I'm going to come see you. You want the best music in the MIA. You just keep listening to us here at Y100.7, okay?
All right.
Y100.7, Miami's #1 hit music channel. Sarah, where are you going to school at now?
I go to New World School of the Arts.
Oh, yeah, a little artsy thing going on, huh?
Yeah, theater thing.
Yeah, I see you trying to be an actress.
Yeah.
I can see you and J-Lo hanging out, shaking those booties.
J-Lo.
Yeah.
J-Lo's a singer.
Yeah, but she's an actress.
She can't act.
Oh, so you saw Gigli, huh?
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Hey, J-Lo's a big Y100 fan. She's probably listening to you right now.
Oh, I hope she's not.
You just ruined about 17 interviews.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was a little Y100 there in Miami. I forgot I was actually at West. It was in West Palm Beach. I actually forgot West Palm Beach in Miami in my little thing there. So.
No one blames you because you work for 85 different places. So one of the things I find interesting in starting this podcast series again with those of you who are born and bred kind of on the mic, and those of us who are not in the radio business, is you guys have this amazing knack to know everyone from the program directors, other air staff, owners, whatever. It's so funny because I've only worked for 1, 2, 3. This is my 4th radio job, I think, really. And I could barely tell you who all the people were I've worked with. It's really, really, really interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a small, radio's huge, but in the mix of things, it's pretty small. And I've been, again, we just covered it. I've been doing it 30 years, which makes me sound so old. But I can tell you that you work with people, and again, I've worked at so many different radio stations, have so many different bosses, and you start to play the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And I pretty much know almost everybody in radio. We all go to like morning show boot camps, or so we're all at events together. And so you start to see the regular people, the people that are your peers that are in the industry. And you hang out and you become friends, and then you just never really, you kind of call them here and there. Everyone's kind of talking about their different bits and what they do on the radio. And it really is, it's not a job, man. It is. I was out for a little while, like I said, and it really is something that it never leaves your being on the radio. So you just remember everybody you worked with, and the same microphone. Look at that microphone right there. I have it right here.
Look at that.
But not that one. No. So to me, it's it's a giant family. You remember people, and let me tell you something. I've gotten more jobs because I've known. So my current job now was because I knew the program director from another radio station, and they needed somebody here. And so it does pay to have a lot of contacts.
Yeah, no, it does for sure. And it's good when you have. It is a family, and I know that sounds cliche, but it is. Radio is a big family, and the impact. Radio people, air jocks or air staff have on people is pretty awesome too, and I think that's pretty cool. What is one station you wish you worked at that you haven't yet?
Yeah, that's it's an easy one. I'll never be able to work there, but growing up, I was a huge fan. The reason why I'm in radio is because of 105 WAVA. If you go back on this channel and watch Lou Katz, I just fan out because he was on there. My friend that we talked about, Downtown Billy Brown, who, by the way, will be on one of these episodes, also worked there. But WAVA was huge. It was bigger than life. Don and Mike, it just was the king. And I was working in Baltimore at the time, and I was at B104, which is a really great station. Don't get me wrong, but I wanted to be on WAVA so bad, and I never got it. I was close, actually, before they went Christian, right before I was able to. I was working my way there, talking to a few people, getting my tape in front of some people that were going to make the decision to let me work there. And when you know it, during that whole process, they were bought by a group called Salem Broadcasting, which turned them into a Christian radio station. Yeah. And I never got to crack the mic at WAVA in Washington, but every single time I'm in a production room or if I'm near something and there's a song on, I pretend I'm on 105 WAVA. I can't help myself, even in the car. So
yeah. Well, that, it is. It's, it's something that it's sad that that's no longer there. And I think just the stars aligned with that. It was just the timing of those big stations, in the early 90s. And it just, they just had whatever it is when you have a morning show like that with Don and Mike and the whole team, actually.
Yeah.
It's magic. And
yeah, I tell everybody I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, so I could hear Washington stations and Baltimore stations and some Frederick stations and actually some stuff from Pennsylvania. It's a great, I have no excuse not to be, and not that I'm great on the radio, but I have no excuse not to be because, dude, I heard some of the literal best jocks in the country, Gary Spears, Chris Jagger, George McFly, Don and Mike, Elliott and Woodside, the Grease Man, Howard Stern, not Howard Stern on Sirius, but Howard Stern working at a radio station. Yeah. And some of these guys, it's just, it's incredible. The pedigree, Big Ron, Don and Big Ron O'Brien. It just, the list goes on and on and on and on. Just so many talented people in that area. And I was just blessed enough to hear good radio growing up and then want to be. Don and Mike were the first and really almost only show that I've ever listened to. Even as a 15, 13-year-old kid, I wanted to stay in the car and see what they were going to do next. They really gave me
Hated
FOMO.
missing their show. Hated
FOMO, the fear of missing
Yeah.
out. I did not want to miss 1 second. And I thought to myself, man, if I ever get a chance to do something like that and be like, and have people waiting on my every word, that would just be so incredible. But still working on that.
So some of the stuff that, people who are not in radio, some of the things they don't see is how hard it is to run a morning show. I think out of all your jobs, what is your, you've mostly been mornings, yeah? Or what would you say?
The last 20 years probably, 15, 20 years. And mornings is really kind of what I wanted to work towards. And so the hardest part of that is, and I guess where I've been very lucky to land a lot of jobs probably that were, that maybe other people could have done better at. I'm a very good quarterback of a morning show. I always tell everybody, it's always funny because they put a show together and everybody that puts a show together says, well, we don't know the chemistry, you've never met this person. And I'm like, look, man, all I need to know is who I'm working with, what are their strengths, and I'm very good at deciphering who's good at what and then letting them do that. I don't have to be the funny guy, but I can be. I don't have to have the last line, but I can. So I kind of I'm like a point guard where I'm just constantly feeding people to do their job better and make us all better. And there's a lot of people that I think that stops them. Not that I'm some radio wizard, but I mean, I just think there's a lot of people that have a lot of talent, but they just want to be the center of attention, and you just can't do that if you're even the really great, the Howard Sterns and stuff. He still had people around him, let them do their job and to make the show a lot better. So,
well, I think, kind of taking the athlete, example is you can't win by yourself. You need those other people because that's impossible. So if you don't have the team of everyone else and utilizing their strengths, then, things fall apart. So,
I'm a very competitive person. You know that, growing up with me in the same house. And, I once, we were playing touch football with our little brother, and I actually dove in the street because he was getting ready to win. In a touch football game, skinned my arms all up. I mean, that's just how I am. But, it's funny is that if you and I were picking teams for flag football, and let's say there were a bunch of NFL, I would pick everybody better than me to the point where I might not even play.
Right.
But I want to win, so I don't even care. And that's how you have to handle it, I think,
All right. The other bad side of radio is the firings. They happen to everybody. If you've never been fired, you've never been in radio. What is one, whether it was for yourself or one you saw, what's the worst firing story you can remember?
My goodness. Well, I'm sure everybody watching this and knows me is thinking the same thing. I got fired in Indianapolis for the funny thing about radio is you can get fired for something, and then the other people inside radio will start to make their own assumptions of what exactly happened. But I'll cover two, because if I don't cover that one, I will seem like a huge hypocrite. The first firing that I really was crazy was I was working at that Z104 where you worked, and one of the guys came in, and back in the day, and let's just say the early 90s was kind of crazy. I think they had a refrigerator there. You were allowed to drink beer while you were doing your stuff. But the guy that was working nights had a little too much drink. And now I was also there, but I was just kind of learning the ropes, and he was showing me stuff. But at some point he got so drunk that he started to make copies of his butt on the Xerox machine. And I don't mean like with his jeans on. I mean with nothing. And so he made like 40 copies of his ass. I don't know. I didn't. So if you use the Xerox copy machine at Z104, you likely had this guy's ass on there. And so he never would have gotten caught, except for he threw the beer cans away, which wasn't a big deal because I think they have it. But he also threw the ass pictures in the trash can next to the copier. So the next day when somebody came in and they saw the anus pictures in the trash can next to the thing, I got called in the office and like, hey man, is this your ass? I'm like, that's not my ass, dude. I can tell you that much. And so they matched up the ass to the paper, and they fired the night guy. But the other big one was Indianapolis. It's Seattle on the ice there. That was great. That's Luke. He played for the Seahawks, and that's Jackie. So that's good. So I was in Indianapolis, and we had a really, the part of the regret I have of doing radio, we were on the show that I was on, Billy and Marco. We were real raw, right? We did a lot of we called other radio stations and had them on the air, messing with them while we were on there. We were just kind of asses to a lot of people, and I'm sure I was as well. But so all in all, I gave the phone number out of somebody on the air that was harassing me, and I got in trouble and I got fired big time there. There's a whole story that I can't really get into, but I mean, it was an embarrassing firing. It was all over the news. Then people started running with different ideas of what actually happened, and it turned into a big melee. But you know what? You live and learn. I've been in a few times where you just go in and you're doing your job and everything is fantastic, and they just tell you, hey, we're changing the format and we're firing everybody. Been 3 of those, along with 2 firings of my own cause. So it's been a little crazy, and it at the end of the day, it's a tough business, man.
It is, but it's so satisfying too, because that's I think why we love it. It's why I got back into it. There are things you have capacity to do that no other career really offers, and that's what I think we love about it, and why we kind of keep coming back to it. And well, you've never really left it except for little periods of time, but I think there's something special about radio, and being a part of it is a really kind of cool thing that not a lot of people can say they do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I really felt this the last time I was I was out for a little while just voice tracking recently a couple of years ago, and I really felt it. It's radio isn't a job to me. It is literally my life. Even when I wasn't on the radio full time, my mind never stopped coming up with ideas. Saying, oh, if I ever do something, I'm going to talk about this, or telling stories, or doing those things. It's natural to me to do that, and to then explain them, or have a funny story or a quick-witted comment here and there. That's literally in my makeup. So to me, it is not a job. It is. It's 24 hours a day. It's 7 days a week. It's something that I love it, man. I love it, and it has been good, and it has been bad. It's been incredible. It's been it's been insane. So it's been a fun ride.
What's the best memory you have of radio?
Ooh, the best memory. Well, there's a lot of good ones. Meeting a lot of people, doing a lot of things, getting the opportunity to be at places that I never would have ever been had I not been in radio. Those are all good. I don't know. It's it's one of the Wayans brothers. I think who is that? Marlon Wayans?
Yeah, it looks like is that Damon Wayans?
It might be. No, it's I think it's Marlon. Anyway.
Oh, Marlon, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to pick just one. There's been a lot of great ones.
I'll let you off the hook of that. What's the best city you've ever been a radio?
Ooh, good one. Man, I really liked Nashville. I didn't know how much I liked Nashville until I moved. Yeah. When I first got to Nashville, so I moved so I'm an East Coast kid. I've been born and raised on the East Coast, so everything on the East Coast is like, it's wheeling and dealing. It's you're in and you're out. I mean, when I actually moved, I lived with you in San Diego. You got a job at Rock Mix station in San Diego. I came out to live with you. And going from the East Coast to the West Coast, they thought I was insane. You couldn't be more opposite. I'm like high-strung, high volume, screaming, yelling. I'm an intense person, I guess. I heard that a lot. You're intense. And so that's just
get that too.
Yeah.
Get that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but in Nashville, it's kind of like the West Coast, but I'll never forget. We were just moving there. I was married at the time. I told my then wife, hey, I'm going to run to the store real quick. And we were unpacking. I'll be back in like 10 minutes. We just got to get a few things. And I was gone for like 40 minutes. And I got back. She's like, what the hell happened? I said, whatever you do not ask anybody how they are here. Because I literally ran into this man. I was like, hey, how you doing? I was like, hey, good, man. My name's Fred. And then all of a sudden we were talking for 30 minutes. I was trying to just get 3 things from the store and roll out. He was talking about his kids and where I should go, and he listened to the station. I mean, it was like, I was like, bro, I really have to go. But they are the nicest people on planet Earth. it is a fantastic city. So I'd have to say Nashville probably.
Yeah, I would love Nashville. We've been to visit Ash and I with some friends, I love the vibe of Nashville. I think it's so cool, and I remember when you lived there, and I wish I'd appreciated it more when we came to visit the first time and did more. But yeah, it's a great city for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. What is one thing you haven't accomplished yet that you'd like to?
Oh, nice question. Gosh, I've done a lot, man. I think really probably make a lot of money. No, actually, I've been in a few times making some decent money. Probably syndication. I think I wanted to try to syndicate. I see people that are doing syndication now, and maybe it's because I'm obscenely narcissistic, maybe. But I always say, dude, I could be so much better than this or that or whoever. But you know what? Being syndicated or doing something maybe like Joe Rogan. So maybe something in that platform.
Well, this could be the next thing. This could be the next thing. You never know. You never know.
Exactly.
You never know. Let me see. Well, I'm trying to think of what else. You answered some good questions.
Yeah. Why don't you ask me what was the best radio stunt I've ever seen?
Oh, promotions. I should have gone with promotions. It's okay. What's the best radio stunt you've ever done? And now I have a follow-up with that. Go.
Yeah. Well, I have two, but my favorite story in all of radio in my 30 years is, so I worked at 107.5 The River in Nashville, Tennessee. I was doing afternoon drive, and Jimmy Steele hired me. He's just a great man. I love that guy. But a couple years into my tenure at afternoons, they hired a new guy named Rich Davis. Well, I'm dropping a lot of names here, boy. They're going to be pissed. Rich and I didn't really see eye to eye. It's just one of those things. And so even though I'd worked there for a long time, I had massive numbers in Nashville. He eventually, I could tell they were trying to get rid of me. So they did eventually fire me from that job. Oddly enough, for not taking a pay cut of the bonus money that I was getting. It's the most insane thing. So they're like, hey, you keep hitting these bonuses, so we're going to take them away. And we got into a huge argument, whatever, but I ended up leaving. And so that was a Clear Channel station, and I just so happened to land a job at Z100 in Portland, Oregon. And that was also Clear Channel. I knew I was probably never going to work for them. I believe I'm still blackballed from Clear Channel, by the way. And all this is setting up the story. So I was married at the time. I told my wife, listen, you're not even going to move. I'm going to be, because I had a no-compete. I had a 6-month no-compete. And I said, I'm moving to Portland, Oregon by myself for 6 months. And 6 months and 1 day, I already had a contract set to go to 102.5 The Party, which is also in Nashville, but morning drive and work with my best friend, whose name is Marco. We were going to do a show there. And so sure enough, I had to eat it for 6 months and 1 day. And I quit on 6 months and 1 day. And they were all shocked in Portland, Oregon at Z100. And I came back to Nashville, and Rich was pissed. And so I just left the station. And so I don't know I'll give you some inside scoop on how radio works here. So when you're doing like live interviews, let's say if Justin Bieber's going to call the radio station, then I'll call the regular line. It's called the hotline. I still had the Rivers hotline because they never changed it. And so this is back in like the early 2000s when Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson had a big show on MTV. Yeah. And so Rich Davis was the kind of guy, I'm not trying to say this super nice, where he would exercise his power of coolness to the record companies to do things. So we were supposed to have Jessica Simpson first on The Party. He called them and threatened to pull her song unless they got her first. So we got a call from the record guy saying, look, Rich is throwing a big fit. Jessica's got to go to him first, but then she's going to come to you guys. And so Marco and I are known for kind of being asshats and being nuts. And so I came up with this plan that has never been reproduced in radio. And if you lived in Nashville in 2002 or 3, you got to see radio magic. So what I did is I called my then wife, Vicky, and I said, listen, and this is live on the air, by the way. So as you're listening to our morning show, you hear us getting pissed that they've already scooped us on Jessica Simpson. So I said, and I don't know why they didn't monitor our radio station, because this is like the 7th thing I did to Rich. So I'm not sure why they just weren't listening to our show. But I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have my wife call the hotline number and become fake Jessica Simpson and give the shittiest interview you could possibly give. Just the worst one-line interview. And so the morning duo over there was Woody and Jim. So she calls. So we are listening. So she 3-ways us, right? So On our air is her calling the hotline at the river. So if you're listening to us, you're like, dude, they're calling in there. So of course, Woody and Jim answer the phone live on our air. And she's like, hey, it's Jessica Simpson. Like, and first of all, it wouldn't be that. Usually it's like it's a record guy. Hey, we have Jessica, but she just can't. And they're like, yeah, hey, Jessica. And so they're all goofy and wacky and being stupid. And she literally gives the worst. I mean, I think I have it taped somewhere, but she was like, hey, is this about over because you guys are boring me? I mean, there was just a bunch of funny lines, and you could tell they were like, hey, we're trying to, hey, well, you're getting up at the crack of noon. And they were doing, and she was like, come on, guys. I mean, is this really what we're doing here? And they actually took her live. So live on the river, she was just tanking them. Now, here's the best part. Meanwhile, real Jessica Simpson's trying to call their hotline, but it's busy because we've tied it up. So about 5 minutes into the interview, the record guy calls us. Hey, man, we can't get through the river. Do you guys just want to take Jessica Simpson? We're like, hell yeah, we want to take Jessica Simpson. So we hang up. She says, hey, I'm not doing this interview. She hangs up on them. We've already got Jessica Simpson on our airways. Let me tell you something. Rich Davis drove his vehicle to our radio station and almost had an aneurysm in our lobby. It was the best radio I have ever done in my entire life. We had people calling and talking about that stunt for probably 10 years.
That's freaking the best.
Yeah. So that if you were listening to our station, you heard us literally take over theirs and just basically waste. It was the greatest thing. It's just one of those things like when you're in radio and all of the cards align and all the stars align and everything just comes into place and you just have to be like, bro, it could never have gotten better.
Now let me ask you a question. Wait a minute about Portland. So you were really there only 6 months and a day?
Yeah.
Did I came and saw you there, right? That house? No, maybe not.
Yeah. Did you? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if I remember that or not. But
yeah. So it was a very short time there.
Yeah.
But
that is one thing about radio. The non-competes, they can get brutal.
You're learning about that now that you're on the air, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's not legal.
I had it before I was on the air too. I didn't even realize what I signed. Dummy me. But the non-competes can be brutal, and that's why I was so shocked with Lou. How really, I don't know how they did it, but a lot of them moved around stations within the same market, and we're able to do that.
Yeah, it's if you can work it out, and you can get the stations to agree to it, they sometimes will drop them, and sometimes in some places they're illegal. Maybe in Washington, I know they might not have no competes because of the it's a working city and it's a
right,
so it's what is that called, union stuff there, so
right to work states and all that sort of stuff. But do you feel like is there an era of radio that you miss?
Oh, yeah. I grew up, like I said, late 80s, early 90s, when some of my heroes on the radio were Broadway Bill Lee, he started in Hartford, then he went to what is that? He went to Hot 99, I think, in New York City. But he rapped. George McFly. Guys that were like, they literally just did like little raps on the air while they were doing it. Tony Fly, some of the great night jocks in all of the countries. That's really my, Kid Kelly, Z100, a lot of guys that, that era. But in that era, man, radio was huge because this did not exist then. Yeah. And so you had nothing else, no Spotify, no YouTube, no nothing. You were the star on radio for quite some time, and it was big, and it was powerful, and it was insane, and it just was. When you listen to air checks, you can look at them here on YouTube. Just type in like 1990s air checks. The energy and the excitement and the delivery. Yeah, it's insane. It's so good.
Yeah, it is. It is insane. And I even remember listening, and even in my early days. And then when I went to San Diego, it's when I noticed the first major shift of radio. It started a little bit when I was at 98 Rock, but you started to feel it come in more with everything was researched and everything was trying to be tactical and everything was trying to be manufactured, and you kind of started to miss that free form anything. And it just seemed to have gotten worse. And then, I was out of it for 17 years and came back. And now I think it's just a whole different animal. Like it's
Oh, yeah.
I think Lou Katz alluded to it during our interview with him, how the ownership deals have changed, where people are allowed to own multiple stations in a market. And then you got to these huge corporations like Clear Channel, iHeart, all these people getting rid of talent and utilizing people out of market to record shifts when they don't even live in that area. And I just radio stops at midnight. Basically, there's no overnights anymore, and I just think it has changed that personality wise. So.
Well, it has. The conglomerates, obviously, it was a big deal. The voice tracking, it really is. It gets rid of the minor league system of people doing radio. People are like, well, kids don't want to do radio anymore. And it's like, well, because number one, there's, when I started, I told you at the beginning of this thing, I graduated and I did midnight to 6. That was an actual shift. We had somebody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you wanted to learn your craft and get better and hone your skills, you did it then. And then you were able to, to move on. But, it is extremely hard in 2023 to do radio because you don't just do radio. My entire job in the morning, almost none of it is being on the radio. It's social media, it's video.
Well, that's why I was hired.
Posting. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I was brought in to the Dina Carroll morning show was because COVID happened right when she went on the air. Her first shift live was March 16th, 2020, when the world shut down. And they fired all of our part-time people, or let them go, laid them off. And she was going to be a single person morning show, which is virtually impossible with everything that happens in the morning.
Right.
And they needed somebody to kind of cover until things, I don't know what they were waiting for, but Dina and I we're friends at work, and I was like, okay, well, I can go in there and support her and do things like social media and take calls and record winners and do all of that while she's doing her show. And 3 years later now it's, it's where it is, and it is way more than just talking on the air. I talk on the air maybe twice an hour. And I'm busy for 4.5 hours, like doing stuff, not only for my job, which is promotions director, but it's I don't think people realize really what goes into morning shows with Facebook Lives and social media and trying to, build your brand, because that's what it's about.
Yeah, well, and and I guess to kind of be real about it, now more than ever. Of course, I'm a personality, so this is my own opinion. But I think more than ever, you need to bring radio personalities back to radio because you just talked about a bunch of those things that we're doing. We're doing a bunch of videos. We're doing on-air content. We're doing social media. We're out. We're doing a million different things. And people are like, oh, well, I listen to Spotify and I listen to, well, you know what Spotify doesn't do? Spotify doesn't make you laugh. Spotify can't get you tickets to the latest Morgan Wallen show. Spotify can't tell you that there's a traffic tie-up somewhere and that you're going to have to go a different way. And so there's
school's closed, or if something's happening in your town. Nothing will replace that. And I do agree with you that we need to bring back, it doesn't have to be the huge personalities of the 80s, 90s, but everything old is new again in fashion, and I believe in radio too. I think that this will kind of come full circle. But you mentioned one thing which leads me to a question a lot of people ask. You've worked under how many different formats?
Yeah, so I've done top 40 mainly my entire career. I've done rhythmic top 40, which is like a little more dance. I've done rock. I've done classic rock. I've done country. And then hot AC a little bit, but it's, that's sort of mixed in. So
Yeah.
usually contemporary, but I've done quite a bit into some sports
How
radio.
hard is it to work for a format that you don't enjoy? Have you ever not enjoyed the format? I guess is the question.
Yeah, so that's a great question. When it's funny because I love rock music. So when I worked at a classic rock station, I liked all those songs. I love top 40. It's funny. Growing up, here's a little insight. Growing up, you actually liked rock. You were a girl. I liked top 40. We were like opposite of what all my friends liked. Poison and Rat and all this metal, and I'm like, dude, get out of here, dude. Johnny B. I like all kinds of other stuff. And so I just had all, I was the first, everyone's like, oh, I listened to rap before school, but I really liked that type of music.
You did,
So I was into that. And then, you liked rock. No girls ever liked rock. You actually listened to 90, right? So it's funny.
Yeah.
But and I wasn't a big country fan, but now I do country and I love it. And I know that sounds like I'm towing the line. Totally not. I love Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen. I love nowadays, the country nowadays sounds like top 40. It doesn't even sound like country.
It does,
so,
for sure.
I've never really worked in a format where I didn't not like it. And, we don't listen to songs usually when we're on the air. We turn it down. We're talking about stuff. We're getting ready to go back on the air. So.
Yeah, very cool. Let me see. What else? What else didn't I ask you that you want to talk about?
Well, I'm not doing the interview, so
I don't want to tap out here yet. I'm thinking, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Here's a question that I ask the podcast that I do during the week. When they make a movie about your life, because eventually they will, who is going to play you?
Oh, man. Who do I want to be playing me, or who is probably going to play me?
Who do you want to play you?
I want Bradley Cooper to play me in a movie. Who will play me? Probably Zach Galifianakis. So.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Well, that's pretty good. I mean, look, it's been a great career so far. You still got a long time to go. You know what I mean? I hope this station you're able to. Well, what's the longest you worked at any radio station?
Let's not get personal here. Let me see.
Just kidding.
The River was probably 3.5 years, 4 years almost. So,
all right, we want to make this stop. Your final long-term.
This is it.
Marco
I'm not going to be
retires on the air at K100.
I'm tired of moving. I'm tired of starting over. I don't have any money left, so I am stuck here unless this YouTube thing takes
the Venmo and the Cash App.
Yeah. Marco Nation $sign is my Cash App in case you need to. No, so. No, this is it. Luckily, I'm in a good spot, and listen, the last few, I've actually tried to settle down. I was at, I was in Martinsburg, and again, they actually flipped a station. I knew the owner of the company, not of the actual company, who brought me in there, told me we're going to do this. You're going to be syndicated in a few stations. We got this, and did all those things, and. A year and a half later, he switched it all back because he lost some money. So they literally fight. It's insane what happens in this business. I was going to stay there.
The one thing that you and we talk about this stuff a lot, and it's what I love about our relationship, and that we're kind of both in it. And even when I wasn't in it, and you were, our brainstorming sessions are some of the things that I will forever love in my life. The amount of ideas that we come up with, and things we do, and things we create. I absolutely love that. You're one of the most creative people I know. You're unbelievable that you take a skill you've never had and you have the capability to perfect it as in a inordinate amount of it's just crazy to me. And in weeks, you're like the king of photography and videography and editing and things you've never done before. And you've done that your whole life, from sports to riding motorcycles to everything. Like, it's just, I'm in awe of that dedication that you have and the ability you have to pick things up. I've never met anyone like you on that, but yeah, there's still some crappy things about radio that you can't control, and that to me is the most frustrating. Like, when you love your job, everything is moving the right way, and you got a couple dumbasses who are just continually messing things up. And that is really hard when you've been in any industry for as long as we have, or just working, and you're like, what the heck, man? Why? You're making life so hard. It doesn't have to be so hard.
Yeah, I have a little saying that I tell my kids, that I tell my friends, that I tell whoever will listen. But the saying goes, you never really leave high school. And it really is, when you think about it, I can't wait to graduate, these cliques, and I don't have to. Yes, you have all of that in the real world. And a lot of times they're your bosses and your coworkers. And it's all stuff that you're going to relive over and over and over. So for you kids that are in 10th grade, 11th grade, and you think you're going to graduate and get rid of it, you never leave high school ever. You graduate to new problems.
Rise above it. I was just talking to my intern today. I asked her what she loved about college, and then I asked her what she hated, and she said the drama. And I'm like, girl, you just gotta rise above it. You gotta rise above it.
Yeah.
One good question, because we kind of alluded to radio isn't like it was when we got into it. What would you tell someone who's young today? Because one of the things I still love about radio is it's one of the careers you can have without going to college. Like you and I never finished college. I did a couple years of it, but my dog in the background. But you never, you don't have to go to college to get into radio. What would you tell somebody today that would be a great way to get involved in radio?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I would tell them, look, you gotta. It's not just radio. That's the first thing. You're gonna have to be good at doing a bunch of other things. But you know what? These kids coming in right now, they're already good at being online. They're already good at social media. They already have grown up with a phone in their hand, with a tablet, with all the things that we had to teach ourselves how to do. So they're a little bit of an advantage there. And really, to be honest with you, radio is a place where you can. Radio is actually YouTube before YouTube. Radio is like reality TV before reality TV. I mean, radio, you get to live your life in such a way in front of the people that listen to you and that like you, and you will touch people that you would never even imagine. And you think that, that you're not making a dent, or you're not making a name for yourself or whatever it is, but you are affecting so many people. So I would just tell them this is a great way to learn a dying skill, which is to be able to communicate with people. I mean, we are getting fastly close to not communicating. We just do text, and we do now you can online order. You can go to Instacart. You don't even need to see anybody to get food and live in your house. You could be not seeing a single person or communicating and be totally fine, which should scare the bejesus out of everybody. But in radio, you have to be able to tell a story. You have to be compelling. You have to be able to bring somebody in. You have to be able to communicate at a high level in a very quick space to either make somebody laugh or make somebody cry or make them think or say, "Hey, I do that," or whatever. So it is a great gift. And it's one that that you have no idea the amount of stuff I've gotten outside of radio because I'm able to communicate. I can. One of the greatest gifts from doing this for the last 30 years is being able to, and I don't want to sound trite, but to look at, I can talk to somebody for 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, and I already know 90% of what I need to know about that person. It is, you can just, I know the right questions to ask because you basically interview, and let me tell you something, not that it's helping me on the dating scene, but you go out and you basically learn to communicate with somebody, and it just makes your life incredibly better by being able to do that. So it's a valuable lesson.
Yeah. One thing I would add for the young people, there is something to be said for being able to have a message in 30 seconds or 25 seconds, being concise, and having thoughts that you can make in that short period of time is really difficult, coming from a long form, even like Snapchat, TikTok, these 3-minute videos. Sometimes I'm watching them, I'm like, dude, you could have said all of that in 60 seconds or
Get
45
to the
seconds.
point of the video.
Yeah. So, I think somebody who is used to doing, even, may have a huge following on YouTube for doing, long form things, turning that into short form, because you are limited with terrestrial radio advertising and all of that. We have a lot to cram into an hour. If you can condense your thoughts and make them clear, and like you say, move people or emote some people to want to listen to you, make them hang on your words. That's a pretty good skill. So
Yeah, absolutely. You have the power to change.
And practicing hitting the posts. So what we all did when we were young is we'd have the radio on in our house, and while the DJ is talking, all of us are saying our little spiel, trying to get to what they call the post in radio, which is before the singers start singing, talking up a ramp or doing that and doing your weather forecast and all of that. If you practice that, you could be pretty good.
Yeah, you definitely can be pretty good. It just takes a little bit of practice.
Yeah.
It's not hard. You'll learn to feel when the post is coming up.
And the other thing I say in radio all the time is, even when you make a mistake, no one dies. So just get over it, move on. You're going to stumble sometimes. You're going to say the wrong word sometimes. Just move on. Don't worry about it, and get on to the next.
Yeah, you definitely have to. One of my program directors, when I started, his big thing was, hey, that break is halfway to Mars, meaning it's in the air and it's gone. So just move on, and if you can learn to do that, you'll be in a much better space. And that also can be in real life, by the way.
Yes, that is. If you take that to real life, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, Marco. Well, you survived being off the air and on the record. How'd I do? I know I'm not the skilled interviewer you are, but
you did fine. You are. Listen, I'm excited that we are, as far as I know, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say, the only brother-sister morning show combo, not only on YouTube but maybe in existence. I don't know anybody that's a brother and sister. They're not now. You used to be behind the scenes in the promotions department, but now you're on the air.
Yeah.
You're doing stuff. You're learning ratings, and you're learning all this stuff that I've been talking about for the last few years. So the only brother sister
I always knew about ratings. I just never had any control over how I was performing with them. So now I'm in the midst of trying to affect ratings, which is very difficult, but
very difficult.
Just keep doing your skill, having a good time, making people feel good. That's my job in the morning, and having fun when I'm out meeting them, which I do love about this job. So
yeah, that is the best thing, is to meet the people out, and it really is, and I'll just tell a quick story before we get out of here. You asked what was, some of the best times. One of the most memorable times I've ever had in radio is I was doing nights. It's actually my first real job in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at Power 105 KIVA, which was a direct ripoff of WAVA by the guy that hired us at Z104, Howard Johnson. I was doing overnights, which is kind of a lonely shift, whatever. And every night, this guy would call. His name was Alan, and I would talk to him. And it'd be like 12:30. I had just gotten on, and he was, "Hey, Alan, how you doing?" You get the radio listeners. They're called the regulars. They're just like any other business. Your regular customers. And I didn't think anything about it. And then we talked for 5 or 6 minutes. And I'm like, "Hey, Alan, I got to go, buddy. I got to do a couple things." But I always answer the call. Number one. And to be honest, because, I was bored, but I also was just getting in and wanted to figure it out. And so to me, it was nothing. But about 6 months into this job of Alan calling every single night, he finally says, "Hey, can I tell you something?" I said, "Sure." He said, "The first night that I called you, I actually had a gun out and I was going to kill myself. And I didn't have anybody to talk to, and nobody was answering my call. And I called you, and you spent 5 minutes with me. And I've been calling you ever since. And you've never not been there, and it shocked me, because I mean, what do you say at that point? And then you just try to figure out, like, hey, well, whatever. And then obviously after that, you're careful to kind of talk to them and see if they can get any help or whatever. But just by saying hello to a stranger in the night, not that I'm some superhero, but this guy was going to actually kill himself from his own words. And didn't, because he had somebody to talk to and something to, just the smallest, dumbest, tiniest thing to live for. And you just never know who you're affecting. And that, in either way, good or bad.
Every single day in life, if we can all remember, right? There's somebody's going through something worse than you. A little kindness, a little compassion, a little 5 minutes with people, can change their whole life. So, well, that's a good note to end on. We hope Alan is doing well out there, wherever he is. But way to go, Marco. You've had an amazing career thus far. I can't wait to see what the next 10 or 15 years holds for you. So we're going to see it right here, hopefully.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be interviewed by my big sister. I was going to say my older sister, but I said my big sister.
That would be true. That would be true. It's okay. I'm fine with it. I'm fine. All right. Until next time, we'll take the next person off the air and put them on the record. Stay tuned right here. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like, share, comment. Share with all those people in radio. And if you're just a fan of radio, be sure you subscribe, because we're going to have some great people coming forward in the next few episodes.